garden friends. Welcome back to the farm. Today I thought I would share with you the inner workings of my winter brain here in central New Hampshire in the middle of winter, February, what I'm doing when I'm not actually out there gardening. As I walk around the farm, my daily chicken chores and just, daily farm life, I'm constantly looking at things and evaluating and coming up with ideas, dreaming of new gardens and plants and such. And it helps me get through the dark days of winter when I can't get my hands into the soil. And so I'm standing here in my kitchen and looking out the kitchen window at the kitchen view garden, which I think many of you have seen in previous videos, and came to the sudden realization that one of my garden plans that I had in my head for future projects wasn't going to quite work the way I thought it would. And I guess that's probably one of the challenges of gardening in a climate like central New Hampshire, where we have 4 very distinct seasons, typically a very harsh winter, lots of snow and ice and wet and, hard conditions to deal with. Mud season in March, which is always fun. And those types of seasons can change the way you plan a garden or you plant a garden or design a garden, because you have to take into account all of those different variables that are going to occur during the seasons, the 4 seasons. And that is exactly what I just sort of figured out in my head as I'm standing here at the kitchen sink washing dishes, that I'm going to need to rethink that. So let me show you what I mean. So here's the view out my kitchen window, one of the kitchen windows anyway, out toward the barn, the kitchen view garden, and around the corner is the shade garden. Here is the patio area. And as you can see, we've had quite a bit of snow lately. Several different storms that have dumped a bunch of snow. We've had to hack our way back through this area because we have a propane tank behind the house that we have to have access to, give access to the propane delivery people. And so we have to hack our way around the back of the house. Anyway, I've been looking at the blank areas around the barn. If you remember in previous videos, the slopes around this red barn here were covered with black weed tarp, and that was to prepare the ground for planting this spring in several different gardens that I plan to do. The long face of the barn with the 4 windows faces south, so it's a reasonably sunny slope, and then this gable end of the barn faces east, so it gets bright morning sun, and then eventually the shade of this maple tree that's just around the corner of the house kind of shades this corner, so it gets a little bit of shade. So, but the south-facing slope is the one that I just sort of had an aha moment about. So the south-facing slope in between the wall of the barn and then the base of the blueberry patch framework, this over here, bird netting framework, that slope there, I had planned to terrace into at least 2 beds, just make one step down so that it wasn't just a straight slope down, and make a pathway along the bottom here between the blueberry framework and the bottom of the slope, so that you could walk straight along the bottom of the slope and out toward the barn driveway. My original plan for that slope was to fill it with a variety of really nice low-maintenance shrubs, things like hydrangeas, rhododendrons, viburnums, dogwood, inkberry, and the like. Shrubs that could offer a little bit of interest for wildlife, but also some flowers, and shrubs that are just very low maintenance. So basically I could just plant shrubs, mulch it, and not really have to worry about it too much. I was standing here the other day after our last snowstorm, which we had 6 to 9 inches, and The roof of our barn here is metal, and I watched as the entire roof, 6 inches of snow, 6+ inches of snow, just let go at once and all cascaded down to the base of the barn wall here. And I'm going to take you out and we'll get a better look at it. But that presents a huge problem. All right, so now I'm outside. Let me tell you, for those of you who don't live in northern climes, the preparation just to go outside, to get ready to go outside, you know, putting on the snow pants and the underlayers and the fleece layers and then the snow boots and then I've got my snowshoes on right now. The gaiters for the snowshoes, basically it's like 20 minutes later and I'm exhausted. Anyway, that's my winter rant. So here I am in front of the barn, the south slope of the barn, and I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up, but I will definitely get closer to this. But I don't know if you can see this, but this lump here is all of the material that fell off that barn roof up there. Let's see if I can turn this up here. Here you go. That whole roof expanse fell down here. And yeah, it's like a big avalanche pile. Pretty heavy. Let me take you up into it. Yeah, I'm scaling the the pile. As you can see, I'm sinking in pretty deep here, even with my snowshoes. And I'm gonna back up carefully with my snowshoes and sit down. But as you can see here, there's quite the mountain of snow that has just piled up right from the base, at the base of this roof line. And unfortunately, depending on the temperature and the type of snow, it looks like the range in which this falls could be anywhere from, a foot or two beyond the eave of the barn to, like 10 feet or so out into what would be the new slope garden. And so that's kind of a problem. If I planted this whole slope with pretty, rhododendrons and hydrangeas and dogwoods and, the like, and the roof let go on top of them, that's going to damage them pretty badly. It doesn't, won't happen every winter necessarily, but often enough that I think the risk of planting fairly expensive shrubs directly underneath where the snow is going to land is probably not a good idea. So I'm going to have to rethink this. So as I mentioned before, I'm planning on terracing this into 2 sections. This upper section, probably a good 10-12 feet out, would be the first level, and then it would drop down to a second level, and then below, and then there'd be like a foot high or so stone wall that would divide the lower terrace from the blueberry framework there, where there'd be a path in the middle of that. So I picture two levels. Not sure physically how that's going to work out. I'm not an engineer, so I kind of work it out as I go. So I'm not sure how big the height difference will be between the 2 terraces. But now I'm thinking that the upper terrace is probably not going to be shrubs. It's going to have to be something else. And what that something else is what I'm going to have to think about for the next coming months. I'm thinking it will be, like masses of one type of perennial, something that dies down to the ground or almost down to the ground that doesn't mind being buried by heavy snow loads. First thing that comes to mind are daylilies. Those are always easy and readily available. They grow anywhere. I've already got a ton of ditch lilies, which is the ubiquitous orange daylily that grows everywhere. But I can introduce other varieties. I've got a nice pink daylily that was left by the previous homeowner that I could take cuttings of. But I'm thinking like drifts of one color, or 2 colors, maybe 3 colors, but solid drifts of each, rather than scattering randomly throughout, to try to keep the front of this barn simpler, I guess, is what I'm going for. So calming. And then the lower terrace, maybe I can introduce some shrubs down there and keep those shrubs on the smaller side. Instead of full-size rhododendrons, maybe do like PJMs, azaleas, although those are kind of not terribly suited to this climate. I've had mixed luck with those. But hydrangeas are always nice, and maybe some of the inkberries that stay smaller. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be thinking about in the coming weeks is what now? What am I going to plant here? Because clearly the shrubs that I had in mind are not going to work. So yeah. All right, well, that's it for today. I just wanted to give you a little insight into how I'm constantly planning and thinking about my gardens over the winter. It keeps my brain engaged and keeps me excited about gardening. That's what I love about gardening is there's always like a future project. There's always something to do differently or add to or change, and it's different every year. And it keeps me interested and excited about the spring to come. So I'm gonna have to ruminate on this plan for this slope garden, and I've got plenty of time. I mean, I won't be planting in this until at the earliest May, but more likely midsummer. By the time I get the terracing done and everything prepped, it will at best be probably early summer. So I've got time to consider what exactly it is I'm going to plant here. All right, well, since I've got my snowshoes on and I'm all suited up, I'm just going to go for a snowshoe right from here. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate that you're here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.